So am I really getting rid of meth? Well, no, not really. So some of you may or may not know, I recently went to CPI, charge pipe injection, which is great. It's meant so you can run higher ethanol contents. It sort of replaces your methanol, but I'm a realist, okay? And I know that everywhere I go, I'm not going to be able to find high concentrates of ethanol or E85, and I may even get stuck with several tanks of 93. So what's the challenge there is 93 with CPI isn't optimum, and you got some tuning issues you got to address. So I'm keeping meth, but I'm keeping it in my hip pocket. All right, I am not getting rid of it. What I've done is I've taken my nozzle size down to a 4 gallon an hour, and on my dash it's nothing more than just a one switch away on the console, and I've got meth back. My challenge is I want to make this as drivable and as stealthy as possible while keeping meth if I can't run CPI because I have a low ethanol content. So here's the problem with running meth, and it's been since I installed it and everyone else. You can't keep this there. Whether you've got a 2 gallon, you'll struggle with real estate. If you've got the stealth kit like I got, you've got the 1 gallon, you can't keep your spare. I'm fixing that. That is going back in there. So you may ask, well, how are you going to do that? I'm going to tell you. So my project today is I'm going to replace my 1 gallon tank with this, your washer, right? So there are some concerns people may ask, well, is the methanol going to be okay in there? Yes, it will, and here's why. Washer fluid is anywhere between 29 and 33 to 35% methanol as it is. So the tank, the lines, the your squirters, they're all methanol rated, so you don't have to worry about that. Second thing is, I believe this is more than 1 gallon, which would give me more capacity than what the BMS 1 gallon has. And 2, it's going to make it even more stealthy. So I'll be able to pull all the pipes, but the tubes that are running up through the firewall, I'll be able to get rid of all that. I've got a cool bung that'll tap into the bottom of this thing. It's going to be a shorter run to the nozzle. I'll show you the adapter that I got from Snow. It's this thing, which is pretty slick. Basically, you drill a hole, this goes in it, and as you tighten that bottom ring, that rubber swells and it will self-seal. So my goal today is I'm going to pull this tank out. All I've got to do is get the car jacked up. I'm going to remove the tire, remove the inner fender well. I'm going to physically pull that tank out. We're going to set it on that bench back in there. I'm going to actually measure the full capacity. Another advantage of using that is it has a built-in low fluid sensor that pops up right on your dashboard. So it's kind of a win-win-win. So that's my project today. I'm going to go ahead and get this car jacked up, get this tire off, get that inner fender well off. I'm going to pull the pump, and we're going to see how much that thing actually holds. Okay, so I got the car lifted up. I got the inner well pulled out, and it took 10 minutes, if that, guys. It's not a hard job. Don't be afraid of it. Just a bunch of little clips and a couple screws, and this inner fender well came out. Probably one of the easier things to do on this job. All right, so let me show you where this reservoir is. So obviously here's your caliper. This is the fill tube, which is that guy. This hose right here is the one that goes up to your nozzles. It comes down. That's your pump and the wire for your pump. This is your low level float, and that's obviously where it comes in. But you can see how much this reservoir goes up top. It's a little tight, so it's only 3 bolts to pull this out. There's a bolt here. There's a bolt here, and then this thing should slide out. I'm going to disconnect the feed here, and just disconnect these 2 wires, and then the feed for the squirters, and this thing will slide right out, and we'll take a look at it on the bench and see what this thing holds. Okay guys, so here it is. This is the your washer fluid reservoir in its entirety. Kind of goofy looking. But I've got this thing set up as close to how it sits in the car as possible. The only modification I had to do, other than clamping stuff down, is the hose out of the pump. I just ran it up above the level, so when I fill it, it won't keep leaking out. So I got this thing drained. The manual says 650 cc's, which is around 21 ounces, before your float trips. So I'm going to go ahead and get a water pitcher, and I'm just going to start filling this thing up and see how much it actually takes. I'm going to say it's probably closer to 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons, but let's just see. All right, so what I just put in out of this 2 quart was right at a quart, or maybe just a hair more. You can see where the water line is. It's right where the float. So that tells me when your washer fluid light comes on, you've got about 2 quarts left. So I'm going to keep filling this up and see what the total capacity of this reservoir is. All right, I've now filled the tank up with 2 of these, which is exactly 1 gallon. And you can see where the level is. So this is definitely much more than your standard 1 gallon meth tank that you would put in the back. So really happy with that. I'm going to keep filling it to see exactly how much, but I think I could probably get another 2 quarts in there, maybe even another ½ gallon. Okay, this was really interesting. I was able to add another quart of water, which means this will hold a gallon plus. And it started overflowing, but I couldn't figure out why, because I was looking at this line and I turned around the side, and you can see where it topped off, but there's some dead space here and here. Who'd have thought? But anyway, you got a gallon and another quart, so that's a plus. That means I'm losing nothing by switching to this tank from the one in the back, the stealth tank. So I'm going to go ahead and drain this, clean it out real good. It's just water, and then we'll talk about how and where I'm going to put that bung to tap into it. All right, we're getting close, but I've got a dilemma. So there's no room underneath to run the bung and the tube out. It's just too tight down in there underneath the wheel well. I checked and double checked, but that's okay. Because back here, there's a recess. You can see this, and this kind of butts up, and it's up against a bunch of foam, so there's a ton of room back here, and then you have this great recess, which is good that it's in the back, because it'll help with slosh. As you take off, you know, all the fluid wants to lead to the rear anyway, so that's where your bung is going to be. No issues. But here's my dilemma. I've got this one I've got from Snow. It's a self-sealing. You drill a hole, you put it in the hole, you turn this knurled knob, and this rubber here swells up and self-seals. It's great. If I use this, I have to use a 90-degree angle so I can get the hose up and over that way to where I'm going to relocate my pump. The other option is just using the BMS one like I've used several times here. Here's the old BMS pump. I mean, these things work great. There's no issues with them. So I have a spare. I might just keep that one, which is real simple. A 1/4 inch NTP, a little pipe thread, seal that up, and I can get this to tilt in any direction I want. So we'll see which one I decide to use. I'm not quite sure yet. The other problem I encountered, or thing I realized, is this tank has to be sealed. Okay, there's an open vent right here. That's not good, not when you're filling this with methanol, because methanol will absorb water and evaporate. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to seal this port right here and get like a check valve or some type of vent that will allow air in, so you don't get vapor lock, but nothing out. Much like what's built into all these caps from BMS. You have to have a way to vent this. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to get on Amazon and check for check valves and see what I can find. Meanwhile, I'm going to figure out what I want to use back here. Okay, the decision's been made, and it was an easy one. After I drilled this, I quickly realized the plastic was nowhere near thick enough to actually create some threads and get a good seal. So it's going to be the Snow. I got this, I think it was like 0.83 inches. I'm going to pop that in there. I'll show you I just used a stepper bit. That's your standard Home Depot, Lowe's stepper bit. Took it all the way to the end. That ended up being the perfect diameter to fit this bung in. So So I got the bung in. The last thing I'm going to do before I fully commit is make sure this thing doesn't leak. So what I did is I filled it up to right about there. I put a little tick mark, and I'm going to let this sit overnight. I'll come back out tomorrow and check. Meanwhile, I can order a few parts to finish this. I'll just throw the tire back on Charlotte out there, and I'll just let her sit. So that's where we're at. So far, so good. Just got a few other components to buy, and I think this is going to work out pretty good. All right, we're back. It's been 2 days. I've been letting this sit here, and the water has not dropped, and this thing is dry as a bone. So that's the good news. The other good news is I needed a 90 degree. Didn't think I had one I was going to go order. And I started digging through my stuff, and I not only found one, but I found two. So while I'm waiting on my new hose to come in, I'm ordering all new stuff. I'm not going to use the stuff I pulled out of the car. I'm going to let this water sit, and I'll come back in a couple days, and we'll finish the installation and get this thing all plumbed in and piped in. I'll do a purge while on camera, and I will call this job a success. But while I'm waiting on some parts, I got to thinking I want to test something. I wanted to make sure that the float is actually working. Real simple. It's nothing but a on-off switch. I threw some terminals on the two leads, and I've got my multimeter set up for continuity. So what you should hear when the float is down and you're low on fluid is the multimeter should beep. And if the water raises up, the beep should go away. So I don't know if you can hear that, but it's definitely beeping, and the water is definitely low. If I tilt this to where the float raises, and the beep went off, and the beep's back on. Hope you can hear that on video. So my switch is good. Okay, so this video is getting a little long. I'm going to go ahead and start speeding things up a little bit. What I've done since the last time I was out here, I got my 90 degree on, ready to go. I've sealed this vent, and I've got one of the vents that I found online. And instead of putting this on the tank, I got to thinking, why not just put this on the lid? And oddly enough, if you look really close, this is almost identical to the BMS one they use in the billet aluminum cap that's optional when you buy the 1 gallon tanks. So this is a really good vent. It's just a one way, not the other. I'm going to wait till the other options I have come in. I can still install this whole system and then install it in this lid later. Now for the motor, found a really good spot for it. So right here is your crash bar, here's your horn. There's a really nice spot that this will mount to. I only had to drill one hole. There was already one there. I put like a backer plate behind here to secure it. They're all on the rubber, and I put a couple spacers just to keep everything nice and sturdy. I think this is going to be a perfect spot for the pump. And one thing I haven't mentioned yet is a filter, an external filter. Guys, if you're serious about meth and you're not running an external filter, you're not doing your system right. This is a really neat one. I think it's from AEM or maybe Pro Meth. I'll find it online and put the link below. It unscrews, you can clean the filter, and always remember the filter goes in between the pump, I'm sorry, in between your tank and your pump. It doesn't go after, it doesn't go before. Always put your filter in between the pump and the tank. So before I start buttoning everything up, I've got everything mocked up. Got my 90 degree, I've got my hose leading into the inlet of the filter, coming out into the pump. This isn't necessarily a purge, I want to prime this pump, make sure everything works. I've got a battery here, I can just go ahead and direct charge it, and I'm going to check for leaks. So let's see if this will prime and purge. Oh yeah, it looks really, really good. I'm happy. Don't see any leaks. So time to start putting some tanks back in. And this will be the last clip, I promise. It is now 4 or 5 days later. I ran into one small snag. These 90-degree L's right there where these shark bites are, they were leaking. Probably from me messing around with this pump and moving locations, but I had to order some from BMS. They came in pretty quick. I got them in, and they're not leaking. So this project's about done. Don't forget about your filter. Great mounting location. I've got the whole system purged. I don't have a stand, and I have to purge it from inside of the car because I got a progressive controller. It's not done on the app, but I show you the system purged really well. And as far as venting, I know I talked about a one-way check valve. This is what I decided to do. This little valve right here, I'll put a link in the description, is great. All I had to do is drill a 3/8 hole. This thing fit right up in there, a little 2-part epoxy, and now it'll vent one way and not the other. So to wrap this whole thing up, I got a list of 5 things why I think, at least why I convinced myself this is a really good idea. Number 1, I gained about a half gallon of methanol because that tank is larger than the BMS 1 gallon. So that's one good thing. The other is I got my spare back. That is huge. Not driving around with a spare is no fun. I lived it. So that's number 2. Number 3, this tank is actually higher in the fender well than the stealth tank back in the rear. And what that does, at least I think, it'll help keep from the methanol siphoning back through gravity. So because the tank is higher, it's always going to want to move towards the pump and be less apt to pull in air somewhere. So that's number 3. Number 4, it's got a built-in built-in float. So I know that when my light comes on the dashboard and it says low washer fluid, I have exactly a quart plus of methanol left, and it'll hold another whole gallon. So real easy to judge. And then the 5th, and not the least, is this is more stealthy. You know, no one's going to see the pump because I've got it behind the clip. No one's going to see the tank because it's actually my reservoir. I didn't lose the functionality of my wipers. So all in all, those are my 5 reasons why I think this is a good project to do.